Now, in Psalm chapter 52, toward here the end, let's pick it up in verse 6. We're backtracking just a little bit, but notice what the Bible says here about this fellow. He says, the righteous also shall see and fear, and shall laugh at him. Now, the him, of course, is the Antichrist. And the righteous shall also see. Then it says, we looked at those verses over there dealing with seeing the devil and how the nations will see him, and the people of the earth will see him, and they'll say, is this the guy? Is this the one that brought down nations? And look how weak he is. Is this the guy? And they're going to laugh at him. But not before they learn the fear of the Lord. Because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. What are they going to do? They're going to learn fear. How? Second Advent. Because when the Lord comes back, he's going to be fearful. I mean, it's going to be scary. I'm glad I'm going to be on the back side, not on the front side. I can remember my dad talking about in World War II, he said there at the Ardennes Forest, after they got through pounding them with them 88s all night, and the Germans decided in the morning after they'd done splintered up that forest, he said it was so frozen, so cold, he digged as hard as he could dig in the ground, and he just gave up and quit. Had a little shallowed out place. He said, that's as far as I could get. The ground was so frozen. He said it's tired from 3 days of hard going because the weather had broken and Patton took off. And so he got up there and they got dug in, and man, they opened up with him on them 88s and just he said just obliterated that forest. He said them things would hit, it bounced him out of that little old shallow dip. And he said he'd just scooch back over down there and try to get back down in there and get his head down in there and just bury himself in there. He said, and they pounded them all night long. And when they got through pounding them all night long, they sent the Panzers in. And he said when they broke that forest in the morning, when they woke up, just a twisted mess, and he said as they started to get up and advance, here come the Panzers over this field. He said it's just looked like a big hay field. They ain't talking more than 15 acres. But here come the Panzers. And he said them kids froze, fear, and they just mowed them down. Because they just froze, scared. And them Panzers, they just opened up on them, man, when they come over that hill and come down, they just opened up. Said them kids that just froze, locked up, and they just mowed them down. And the ones that didn't kill, they just run them over with the tracks. Kept right on moving. I said, what'd you do? He said, man, I went to moving. He said, because the problem was you're firing a BAR. And he said, they start hearing that BAR, they start hunting for you. He said, you can never stay in one spot very long. Right. So you always move. If you ain't moving, you're dead. You got to be moving. And you want to move angular and lateral to those individuals to try to get a flank on them so that they could get the bazooka to bust the tracks. He could shoot a grenade and he might get a track, but what he was assigned to was a bazooka to cover him. And that was their job. That's all their job was to kill tanks. That's what he did. And they would go out there and he said, just get moving. He said, you moved and you kept moving. You kept moving. You just kept moving back and forth, round and about. Anywhere you thought that wherever you could get that you think that they didn't think you were there, that's where you want to be. What is it? Fear. You know what? People are going to learn fear. They're going to learn the fear of the Lord. And it says the righteous shall also see and fear. Fear who? Fear God. And shall laugh at him. Who? Not God. The Antichrist. You're going to laugh at him. Now notice it says, lo, this is the man that made not God his strength. So notice that the devil doesn't make God his strength. The devil doesn't trust in God. And notice what he says, but he trusted in the abundance of his riches, the things that the devil could gain. Now the devil gained the whole world. Because when he tempted Christ over in Matthew 4, he said, all of these things were given to me, the riches, fame, everything is mine, because it was given to me by God. He said, I took the keys from Adam. It was supposed to go to Adam, but I took them from Adam, so now they belong to me. And he said, and I can give them to you. And he was trusting in those riches. But notice over in verse 3 of Psalms, in that Psalms 52, notice he says, thou lovest evil more than good, and lying rather than to speak righteousness. So the first thing you find out about this guy, this Antichrist, is he's a liar. Now, we went over some of this last week. He's a liar. Probably won't spell real good, so you girls just let me know, because I'm sure I probably didn't spell none of that right. The second thing you find out about this guy, look over in verse 4. He thou lovest devouring words. He's a destroyer. He's a destroyer of mankind. You know what he told? What did he tell Eve? He says, "Yea, hath God said." What was he trying to do? He wanted to destroy them. You know what God? You know what the devil wants to do to you? He wants to destroy you. He's a liar and he's a destroyer. And he destroys family. You know what he does? He'll take the weakest link in a family, and he'll chip away at that weak link. And sometimes it's the husband, sometimes it's the wife, most times it's the kids. And he'll chip. Why? Because he wants to destroy that whole family. He's a liar. He's a destroyer. Notice something else about this guy. He brags. You know what? He's a boastful individual. Notice with me in verse 1 back over there. It talks about him bragging and talking. Notice he says, "Why boastest thyself in mischief, O mighty man?" Question. "The goodness of God endureth continually." He brags. You know what the lost world does? They brag. They brag about how good they are and how good the world is and how terrible church and Christianity is.
That's right.
You ever notice that? You ever notice how they'll tell you that living like a Christian is a drag? It's a drag, man. Why do you want to live that way? Why don't you loosen up? Why don't you relax? You know, why don't you guys, have a little fun? Well, you know what? They don't have any clue about it.
Right.
They'll paint you as the trouble with the nation.
Yeah.
Everything else can be fine. It's you that's the problem. And I tell you what, he's a braggart. I tell you the last thing is back over in verse 3, he's an evil worker.